The shirt wasn't mine. That's the first thing. It was balled up in her laundry basket between a pair of floral socks and her sage green bralette. It smelled like him. A scent I now know far too well. Some pretentious cedarwood nonsense with hints of bergamot. And I folded it. I don't even know why. I folded it neatly, like it belonged here. Like he belonged here. Then I placed it on her side of the bed and just stared at it. For too long. I told myself I'd confront her. I always do. But instead, I sat down on the edge of the bathtub that night and read her text messages through the reflection in the mirror. She doesn't know her notifications show on the lock screen when it's charging. Wesley, tonight was perfect. That look in your eyes at the restaurant. Wow. Her. I'm still shaking. I thought he suspected something. I didn't breathe for 17 seconds. I counted. Then I flushed the toilet just to make noise. Just so I wouldn't scream. She was in the living room, laughing at a show we used to watch together. Feet curled up, blanket under her chin, like everything was fine. Like she wasn't texting a man named Wesley about her look while I cleaned lint from our dryer. I made tea. Because that's what I do when I'm spiraling. Chamomile. No, honey. I don't deserve sweet things anymore. The mug burned my hands, but I didn't care. She noticed I was quiet. Asked if work was getting to me again. I nodded. She offered a foot rub. I declined. She smiled. I didn't. Then she asked, "Are you okay?" And that's when I said it. My voice barely louder than the kettle cooling behind me. "Good luck on your date." Her body stiffened like I had electrocuted the air. She turned her head slow, like in a horror film. Eyes wide. Brows twitching. Jaw locked. "What are you talking about?" she whispered. She clutched her phone so tight, I heard the case creak. I sipped my tea. Didn't blink. Didn't answer. Because I didn't need to. Her face, that beautiful, terrible face, said everything. And that's when I knew. She'd never been mine. And maybe she never even wanted to be. She stood there blinking. Not like a person, but like a machine that just glitched. A loop of frozen panic, pupils darting as if searching the air for a believable excuse. I watched her jaw tighten and loosen, the way you'd expect someone to react after almost hitting a deer with their car. Not guilt. Not denial. Just shock that they got caught. "I don't know what you mean," she said finally, blinking too fast now. "You're acting really weird, Eli." She only calls me by name when she's nervous. I'd gone 6 years being babe or you, but now I was Eli. I almost laughed, but it would have sounded insane. I walked past her toward the hallway. Her perfume caught in my throat. Not the one I bought her, the one Wesley likes. The one she started wearing after she met him. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To bed," I said. "You're just gonna what?" "Say something like that and walk away?" I turned, leaned against the doorframe, and looked at her like I was watching someone else's wife. Someone else's life. Why not? Isn't that what you do? She didn't answer. She just looked small. Not in size. In spirit. Like a shadow of herself wearing her own skin. I went to bed alone. And I woke up alone. But not because she left. Because she never came to bed at all. The next morning she was gone. Her toothbrush was still in the cup. Her charger still plugged in. But her shoes? The ones with the worn-out heels she only wears when she wants to feel tall? Gone. She didn't call. Didn't text. Not that day. Not the next. I didn't reach out either. Instead, I stayed home from work and printed the phone bill. I sat at the kitchen table in my hoodie, knees pulled up, eating dry cereal straight from the box while I highlighted every unfamiliar number like some underpaid detective. Wesley's number showed up 37 times in the last week alone. Midnight. 1:42 a.m. Lunch break. Even during her doctor's appointment. She never called me that much. Not even when we were dating. Not even when I proposed in that stupid candlelit gazebo she said she loved so much. On the third day, she came home. No apology. No explanation. Just walked in holding 2 bags of groceries like she forgot we were living in a war zone. "I got oat milk," she said. "And that cereal you like." I stood there by the sink, barely holding onto the counter. Then I asked the question I never wanted to ask. "How long has it been going on?" She didn't flinch. She didn't even pretend not to know what I meant. "Eli," she started. But I held up a hand. "No, don't Eli me. Just tell me. Please." Her eyes dropped. Shoulders slumped. And for the first time since this started, she looked tired. Not defensive. Not cornered. Just exhausted from lying. 6 months, she said quietly. The floor didn't fall out. The walls didn't crumble. Nothing dramatic happened. Just me. Standing there. In the kitchen, realizing that for half a year, I was the other guy in my own house. I should have told her to get out. That's what any self-respecting man would have done, right? She stood there, her 6 months still echoing in the air like a confession whispered in a church pew. But instead of yelling, instead of throwing her suitcase down the stairs like in movies, I nodded like a spineless fool and walked over to the kettle. "Want tea?" I asked. She blinked. "What?" "I'm making tea," I said, reaching for the chamomile. "Do you want some?" She didn't answer, just stared at me like I was malfunctioning. Maybe I was. I poured water, set the mugs on the counter, pretended this was normal. Because if I treated it like an apocalypse, I'd fall apart completely. But if I treated it like Tuesday, maybe I'd survive. She sat at the table, slowly, hands folded, looking at me the way you look at a dog after you accidentally step on its paw. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, not touching her tea. "I was lonely." I laughed, the kind of laugh that sounds like it's choking on tears. "You were lonely?" "Yes." "While living with me?" She nodded like a child admitting she broke a vase. I wanted to scream, to demand details. Was it the bartender at the wedding we went to last October? Was it the guy who helped her with her car? Was it someone I'd met? But I didn't ask, because I didn't want the answers. Instead, I asked the most humiliating question I've ever let slip from my lips. "Do you love him?" She didn't answer right away. She looked at her mug, touched the rim like she was checking its temperature. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, she said, "I don't know." Those 3 words broke me more than if she'd shouted yes. I don't know. Not no. Not, of course not. Just uncertainty. Like love was a light switch she hadn't decided whether to flip. I stood in the kitchen with my tea and my pathetic hope and nodded again, like a robot trying to mimic human sadness. "Okay," I said. She stared at me. "Okay. What else am I supposed to say?" I whispered. We sat like that for almost an hour, in silence, like 2 strangers waiting for their ride to different airports. Eventually, she stood. "I'm going to take a shower." I nodded. She walked down the hall, closed the bathroom door, and I collapsed onto the floor like someone had unplugged me from reality. I stayed there, back against the fridge, feeling the hum of the compressor in my spine and the weight of her, I don't know, pressing against my chest like a brick. That night, I didn't sleep. She did, peacefully, curled up on her side of the bed, her hair spilling over her pillow like she had nothing in the world to worry about. And I lay beside her, wide-eyed in the dark, listening to the quiet rhythm of her breathing and wondering how long she'd been dreaming of someone else in that very spot. 3 days passed. She didn't leave. I didn't ask her to. We floated around each other like ghosts sharing a house we both died in. She'd make coffee in the morning and ask if I wanted some. I'd say sure, like we were roommates instead of 2 people trying not to implode. She never brought up Wesley again. Neither did I. I think we were both waiting for the other person to blink first. But then the envelope came. It was Thursday, raining. One of those thin, cold rains that feels like the sky is spitting spitefully, not crying. I heard the mail drop, went out like usual in my slippers, expecting bills, ads, maybe a takeout menu from that Thai place we both used to love but hadn't ordered from in over a year. But there it was, a manila envelope. No return address. No postmark. Just my name. Yelai, in neat, sharp handwriting. I thought it was from her. Maybe a letter. Maybe her version of closure. Or an apology written out because she couldn't say it to my face. But when I opened it, the first thing I saw was a photo. A printed photo. Of her. And Wesley. Sitting in a parked car. Windows fogged. Her hand was on his chest. His was on her thigh. And her face. God help me. She looked happy. Unfiltered joy. The kind she used to give me in stolen moments after road trips, or when I brought home her favorite cinnamon buns from that overpriced bakery downtown. Underneath the photo was a receipt. A hotel receipt. 2 nights. King Suite. Signed with her name. The same signature I saw when she signed our marriage license. There was a sticky note. "You deserve to know what she's not telling you." No name. No explanation. My hands shook. Not from anger. Not even from betrayal this time. From confirmation. It wasn't a fantasy. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't reading too much into the laundry or the perfume or the phone bill. I was watching my marriage rot in real time. I walked inside with the envelope and sat at the table. She was on the couch, scrolling through something on her phone. Probably Instagram. Probably pretending everything was okay. I watched her for a minute. Then I placed the photo in front of her. She didn't look surprised. She didn't deny it. She just stared at it, jaw twitching, fingers curling around the edge of the coffee table like she needed to hold on to something. "Who sent this?" she asked. "Don't know," I said. "Does it matter?" Her face twisted. Not with guilt. With fear. She stood suddenly and locked the front door. Then the back. "What are you doing?" I asked. She didn't answer. She grabbed her phone, opened her messages, and froze. And I saw it. Right before she tilted the screen away, I saw it. A new message from Wesley. "He knows. Call me. Now." And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just an affair. This was something else. Something deeper. Dirtier. Dangerous, maybe. And I wasn't just the husband anymore. I was now the variable they hadn't accounted for. She didn't sleep that night. Or if she did, it wasn't in our bed. I heard her pacing between the living room and kitchen sometime after 2 a.m., her phone in her hand, screen glowing against the dark walls like a confession in motion. I lay there with my eyes closed, breathing through clenched teeth, pretending to sleep, because I didn't know how to exist in a world where I was supposed to ask questions I wasn't sure I could handle the answers to. At 3:17 a.m., she left. Didn't say anything. Just took her keys and walked out. The front door didn't slam. It whispered shut, like it didn't want to wake the truth. I waited 15 minutes. Then I followed. She didn't take the main road. She drove down back streets, familiar ones, but not the kind you'd use if you were actually trying to go somewhere. She was trying not to be seen. But I saw her. From 2 blocks behind in my old Honda that squeaked when you turned right too hard. She pulled into the parking lot of a closed hardware store on 6th. A single streetlight buzzed above her. I parked across the street behind a dumpster and killed my lights. A few minutes later, a car pulled in behind her. A gray Mazda. Tinted windows. No front plate. He didn't get out. She didn't either. They just sat there, 2 silhouettes exchanging nervous gestures, like kids caught cheating on a test, but still trying to figure out how to get away with it. Then her door opened. She leaned in through the passenger side window of his car and stayed there for nearly 10 minutes. I couldn't see her face, but I knew. I knew she wasn't crying. She was negotiating, not with a man who loved her, with a man who had leverage. Eventually, she stepped back, got into her car, and sped off. He waited another minute, then pulled out in the opposite direction. I didn't follow him. I wish I had. Instead, I sat there, sweating through my hoodie, fingers gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to the ground. When I got home, she was already in the shower. The hallway smelled like coconut and eucalyptus, like nothing had happened, like we were still just 2 boring people trying to find something good to stream before falling asleep. But I couldn't pretend anymore. Not after what I saw. So I waited by the table. She came out in her robe, toweling her hair, humming some tune like we were in a romantic comedy instead of the 3rd act of a silent betrayal. "You're up late," she said casually, not looking at me. "I followed you," I said. The towel stopped. She looked up. Her smile cracked just a little at the edge. "What?" I saw him. "The car. The exchange. You leaned into his window like you were making a deal. What does he have on you?" She didn't answer. She just stared at me for a long time, like she was trying to calculate whether she could lie her way out of this, or if it was finally time to burn it all down. Then she whispered, "It's not what you think." I laughed. A dry, bitter sound that felt like it came from someone else's mouth. "Please," I said. "Tell me exactly what I think." Her lips parted, then closed. She walked past me, into the bedroom, shut the door, and locked it from the inside. And for the first time, I wasn't just heartbroken. I was terrified. Because whatever this was, it wasn't about love anymore. It was about something she thought I couldn't handle. And she might have been right. The next morning, I woke up alone again. But this time, I didn't feel sorry for myself. I felt numb. Like someone had scooped out the soft parts of me in the middle of the night and left nothing but a shell filled with echoes of things I never said out loud. Things like, "I think I always knew." Maybe I never really made her happy. Maybe she was already gone long before Wesley. She didn't talk to me that morning. She poured herself coffee, stared at the garden through the window like it was a painting, and left without saying a word. No lie. No excuse. Just absence. And for once, I was grateful. Because I had something to do. We have a basement. It's not finished, just concrete floors, a rusty dryer, some mold near the corner where the rain leaks through. She hates it down there. Says it smells like a dead library. So naturally, I never go. And she never expected me to. But I remembered something. Last year, around the holidays, I walked in on her frantically stuffing something into the bottom drawer of an old filing cabinet we never use. When I asked her what it was, she smiled too wide and said, "Just old stuff, junk, receipts and stuff from college. You'd be bored." I never pushed. Until now. The drawer stuck, like it hadn't been opened in years. I had to yank it hard enough that the whole cabinet nearly tipped. Inside, I found a thin folder wrapped in a plastic grocery bag. Inside the folder, a printed contract, a non-disclosure agreement, her signature, Wesley's signature, a third name I didn't recognize, Dominic R. Shale, legal counsel. It wasn't for an affair. It wasn't romantic. It was for a business deal. Something labeled consulting and character licensing. There were invoices, thousands of dollars exchanged, some wired directly to her, others to a joint account I didn't know existed. There were names, pseudonyms, fake addresses, and then, the final page, a photo, not of her, of me, standing in our kitchen, back turned, unaware, captured through the window, dated 3 months ago. I dropped the folder like it burned me. What the hell was this? What kind of consulting involved secret NDAs, burner accounts, and photos of your husband taken without his knowledge? I went upstairs, heart racing, and searched every drawer in the house. Her closet, her purse, nothing, just normal things. Lip balm, hair ties, gum. But then I remembered something else. Her gym bag, the one she never actually took to the gym anymore, but still kept in the trunk of her car like some dusty relic. She was still gone. So I took her keys, opened the trunk, unzipped the bag. Inside, under the gym towel, I found a small black notebook, the kind you'd get at an office supply store. Plain cover, no label, but inside, names, dates, times, places, not just of Wesley, not just of me, other men, other people, dozens of entries, most crossed out. One word written at the top of the very first page. Observations. And suddenly, I wasn't angry anymore. I was cold, empty, because this wasn't a love story gone wrong. It was something else entirely, something calculated, and I had no idea who the woman sleeping in my house actually was. I didn't confront her, not right away. I put the notebook back exactly where I found it, zipped the bag, closed the trunk, locked the car, washed my hands even though they weren't dirty, then sat on the edge of our bed for 2 hours, just breathing. Because here's the thing no one tells you about betrayal. It doesn't always come with answers. Sometimes it comes with more questions than you're capable of asking. That notebook, those pages, those names, they didn't make sense. Why observe people? Why track them? Why keep quiet about it? Unless you need control. Unless watching is the goal, not the mistake. She came home around 5. Didn't kiss me. Didn't ask how my day was. Just dropped her keys into the bowl by the door and went to the fridge like nothing had shifted in the universe. I couldn't look at her the same. She poured orange juice and hummed something tuneless. Wore an oversized sweater like a costume for comfort. It didn't fool me. She sat on the couch. I followed. Why were there pictures of me in a file with Wesley's signature? I asked. Her eyes didn't widen. Her jaw didn't drop. She didn't pretend she didn't understand. She just went still. Completely, terrifyingly still. Then she set her glass down and said, "How much did you read? Not what did you read. How much? That told me everything. You're not going to deny it?" I said. She looked at me, and for the first time in this entire nightmare, I saw something that looked like sadness. "No," she said. "I'm not." I waited for her to explain, to tell me I got it all wrong, that I was jumping to conclusions, that it wasn't what it looked like. She never did. I leaned forward. My voice cracked when I asked, "What were you doing, Morgan? Who were you doing it for?" She shook her head slowly. "Not for. With." The word knocked the breath out of me. With. She didn't elaborate. Just said, "You don't understand, Eli. You never did." And that right there, is when it hit me. She wasn't the only one living a double life. I was too. Not with affairs. Not with secrets or side jobs. But with pretending. Pretending I was present. Pretending I was listening. Pretending I was a partner when, really, I was just orbiting her life and hoping she'd never notice how small I'd become. Maybe that's what she'd been recording. Measuring. Comparing. Not to manipulate me. To study me. To see how long a man could rot from the inside out before he noticed the smell. And suddenly, I realized something I hadn't dared to admit until now. I wasn't afraid she'd leave me. I was afraid she never really entered this relationship in the first place. I want to see the rest of the files, I said quietly. She didn't move. You already saw too much. I need to know. Why? She asked. So you can punish me with your disappointment? So you can sleep a little better knowing it's not all in your head? I stared at her. My mouth opened, closed. I didn't have an answer. I just knew this wasn't about Wesley anymore. It wasn't even about love. It was about power. And maybe, just maybe, I'd been giving her all of mine without even noticing. She didn't try to stop me when I left. No begging, no tears, no dramatic speech in the doorway. She just stood in the kitchen, arms crossed over that worn sweater, watching me pack a single duffel bag like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. And maybe for her it was. I took nothing of value. Just clothes, my journal, my camera, the one I hadn't used in years. I even left my wedding ring on the nightstand, not because I wanted her to see it, but because I didn't want it in my pocket, rubbing against my keys, reminding me of promises made by two people who no longer existed. I walked out at 2:04 p.m. It was sunny. Birds were out. Kids were biking in the street. I half expected thunder, cinematic rain, some poetic goodbye. But the world didn't mourn for us. It just kept spinning. And for the first time in months, I felt like I was standing on solid ground. I rented a room in a quiet part of town, above a bakery that opened too early and closed too soon. The landlady's name was Marion, and she never asked questions. She just handed me the keys, pointed to the fuse box, and told me not to use the left burner unless I wanted to start a fire. I liked her immediately. The first night alone, I didn't cry. I expected to, but I didn't. Instead, I slept. Really slept. No panic. No pretending. Just the soft hum of traffic outside and the smell of yeast rising through the floorboards. The next morning, I made coffee and opened my old camera. The battery was dead. The memory card had only 3 pictures on it. All of her, from a vacation we never finished. I deleted them without hesitation. Then I took the camera outside and started walking. At first, I didn't know what I was looking for. But then I saw them. People. Strangers. Real faces. Expressions without masks. A girl waiting for the bus, braiding her own hair. A man in a suit eating a donut alone on a bench. An old couple arguing over which flower pot to buy. I started snapping photos. Not for profit. Not for followers. Just to remember that the world was bigger than the mess I'd crawled out of. And as the days passed, something strange happened. I started laughing again. Not the hollow, polite chuckles I used to give Morgan when she made dry observations about people at parties. Real laughter. Awkward. Loud. Mine. I even started talking to people. One day at the cafe, I met someone named Corinne. Not in a romantic way. Not yet. But she liked the same old jazz I did. And she once sold everything she owned to move to Nova Scotia for 6 months just to write a book she never finished. She told me that over bad lattes and better pie. And I thought, God, this is what it feels like to breathe. One evening, weeks later, I got a message. It was from Morgan. I see your photos online. They're beautiful. I hope you're okay. I stared at the message for a while. Thought about deleting it. Thought about replying. In the end, I didn't do either. I just let it sit there, like a page in a book I'd already finished. She had her story. I had mine now. And for once, I wasn't her subject. I was the narrator again. And I wasn't writing tragedy anymore.